What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you our final episode of the full story of Divinity Original Sin. So last episode we explored Hunter's Edge and basically handled all of our affairs there between the Orcs and the Immaculates, as well as explored Zandalor's house and figured out that he actually left that house and his servants to go explore the Source Temple in pursuit of Leandra himself. So our next step is to, of course, now that we have the means to enter the Phantom Forest, which prior to this would have been deadly, we can now explore, search for the Source Temple, and find Zandalor. In order to do that, we need a rune from a being known as the Spirit of the Forest, and this rune is required to open the door of the Source Temple. Without it, the door will not open. It basically serves as a key. Upon arriving in the Phantom Forest, we can, of course, begin our search. Now we know, in addition to the Spirit of the Forest, we know because of Arhu telling us that the Phantom Forest gets its name from a woman named Cassandra, who is actually a lich. She is the proverbial phantom of the Phantom Forest. So, here's a bit of a qualifier for you guys. The first town of Syseal and the Phantom Forest, I think, are some of the best, most well-done parts of the game. The Phantom Forest, as well as the town of Syseal, all have a lot of interactions, and you can interact with a lot of them in a lot of different ways. So there's a ton of ways the events of the Phantom Forest can play out. So with that in mind, I can't guarantee that I'm going to mention every single one of them. I'm just going to try to explain them in the most narratively comprehensible way. So if I miss a specific interaction, sorry, I'm just trying to give people the gist of the narrative here. It's very possible I won't cover literally every option. I am going to try to mention as many of them as possible, though. So, upon arriving in the Phantom Forest, you're likely to run into two things. One, a human being decaying but also grown into a tree. There's a couple of these actually scattered throughout the Phantom Forest, and they will stop you when you walk by them. And they'll basically explain that Cassandra, the Lich and Phantom of the Forest, is invulnerable. She cannot be hurt by normal means. And these people, for lack of a better word, also explain that in order to hurt Cassandra, you're going to have to burn her corpse, her original corpse, her actual bones. And they kind of point to where those probably are, which is a tomb of sorts not too far from here. I think they call it like the Hall of the Dead or something like that. The other thing you're likely to run into in the first part of the Phantom Forest is an earth elemental being harassed by some enemies. Now, once you save this earth elemental and speak to it, it will explain that it is actually the apprentice of the Spirit of the Forest, whose actual name is Chiara, which is basically another earth elemental. And Chiara's apprentice rather, will explain that Chiara has been captured by a demon named Balbereth in the right side of the Phantom Forest, and basically asks you to find a way to save the earth elemental. Now, Balbereth, if you are playing with Jahan as a companion, should sound familiar because Balbereth is the antagonist of Jahan's companion story. First, we're going to deal with Cassandra. So, Cassandra, if you talk to her before going to the tomb to destroy her corpse, you will discover that she has captured Arhu and is keeping him prisoner. Now, you can talk to Cassandra and she'll basically be like, she's invulnerable here, but she needs your help in recovering a stasis fern to basically force Arhu to stay a man forever. Because again, as we learned last episode, Arhu can change into a cat because he was born a cat. It was actually Cassandra who granted Arhu a human consciousness and basically allowed him to shift. Cassandra did this through her use of the Source. She basically turned a cat into a human being, pseudo. So, because of this, Cassandra wants to keep Arhu as a man forever because she loves him. They were like a couple before she was turned into a lich. Now, in order to do that, Cassandra needs a stasis fern, which is, ironically enough, an incredibly rare plant that is held by none other than the Spirit of the Forest. Now, I just want to mention that you can totally do this. You can find the Spirit of the Forest, go get that stasis fern, bring it back to Cassandra, and totally let things play out that way. Absolutely. However, as I think most people will agree, Cassandra is an awful human being, and you would rather save Arhu from a fate he does not want, and, basically kill her. So in order to do that, we need to find the tomb that I referenced earlier. Now, we can learn from talking to those people that are decaying that I mentioned earlier. Also, when it comes to that tomb, that the only things that can enter that tomb are the dead, so we have to get a little creative. Now, in walking up to that tomb, there are actually sentinels, which are basically just giant stone statues, and if they see you, they will actually trigger a lava trap that will, of course, kill anybody that hits the lava. So we have to get, again, a little creative with how we get into this tomb. The easiest way to do it is actually just use either an invisibility potion or someone with an invisibility skill to turn themselves invisible, walk past the sentinels because this bypasses them seeing you, and then when you get to the elevator that actually leads down to the tomb, instead of trying to use it yourself because you're alive and thus can't go into the tomb, click on the corpses that are already on top of the lift, put a teleporter pyramid in their inventory, and then send the lift down with the teleporter on that corpse's inventory, and then use the other teleporter pyramid to then teleport your party down below into the tomb, which is pretty cool. So, and then, don't forget to retrieve the teleporter pyramid that you put on the corpse's inventory. So there you go. That's pretty much the easiest way to get in there. And once you're inside this tomb, we're basically going to search for Cassandra's corpse, which just requires a little rooting around. The main thing you have to watch out for here in this tomb is there's a lot of traps. Like it's a trapped area. There's a lot of environmental traps like stunning. I think there's a little bit of lava even if you get a little too careless. So just kind of be careful where you step, but if you explore long enough, you're eventually going to find Cassandra's corpse. You need to attack it to destroy it, and this will actually render Cassandra vulnerable to damage, because prior to this, she's invulnerable. You cannot do damage to her, much like you can't attack Death Knights without making them vulnerable first. The only other thing of note in this tomb is a crazed alchemist who is actually working for Cassandra. He doesn't fight you, he actually serves as a vendor if you so choose. However, I mention this guy purely because there's an item in his lab that relates to the companion quest for Woldgraf, which is a mute scoundrel guy you can pick up. Part of his companion quest will lead you down here. You need an item from the alchemist lab for that. Then, of course, we can go back to Cassandra now that she's been made invulnerable. Once this happens and we talk to her, she immediately initiates combat. She turns into her true lich form, and you need to kill her. After this, Arhu basically says that he's upset it came to this, but, he kind of gets it, and he slinks off to do Arhu stuff. That's pretty much how you take care of the Phantom of the Forest. Which brings us to, again, the right half of the forest, where the demon Balbereth reigns supreme. So if we explore that side of the forest, we can find a bunch of roaming demons that if they see you, they will shoot towards you and blow up and likely kill your entire party. So either send one person at a time through this part of the forest to explore and kill these demons that explode or kamikaze your party. Basically, you don't want to stand too close together is what I'm getting at. So either send one person or sneak through, do whatever you got to do, and eventually you will find a shack that is guarded by cyclopean horrors of various sorts. So once we kill all of them and step into the abandoned shack, Jehan will explain that, by the way, just a real quick aside, I know I pronounce his name differently all the time. I'm doing my best. I don't know how to pronounce this guy's name. I'm terrible at remembering stuff like that, so there you go. Either way, he will explain that he knows for certain Balbereth is nearby because, again, it is Jehan's goal to meet Balbereth. Once we go down into the basement of this shack, we can find out that Balbereth is actually holding the spirit of the forest hostage. If you have Jehan, you basically have to kill Balbereth. You don't literally have to. Jehan doesn't initiate combat, but it does make the other part of this quest a little awkward. Because if Cassandra is still alive and you've gotten to this point, you can basically strike a deal with Balbereth to go kill another demon that is not too far away, who's also equally difficult to kill. And if you do that, Balbereth will just let the spirit of the forest go, which will, then allow you to get the stasis fern and go back to Cassandra, as well as the rune for the Source Temple door. Interestingly enough, and again, one of the reasons I like this, there's a lot of options here. You can totally just pickpocket the rune off of Balbereth because he's the one who actually is holding it. So that's something you can do. You can actually just kill Balbereth outright, which is easier. All sorts of stuff like that. There's plenty of options is what I'm getting at. Personally, I prefer to just kill him because why not? So once he is dead, or whichever method you chose to use, we can free Chiara, who will then give us the rune to the Source Temple door and basically thank us for, protecting her from Balbereth. Jahan's companion quest will complete upon his death as well. You can talk to him about that. Fun fact, having killed Balbereth basically renders Jahan immortal, if you're ever wondering why he's so damn old in Divinity Original Sin 2. In his specific case, this is why. We will get to that in another video after this series has concluded, however. But for now, we have everything we need to carry on with the main story and infiltrate the Source Temple. Now, you might be thinking, oh, sweet, we've got this rune. I can just walk up to the door of the Source Temple and enter. Well, you'd be fantastically wrong and clearly never played a Divinity game before. In order to get to the main door of the Source Temple, you have to first solve the environmental puzzles around the Source Temple proper in its little grounds. So basically, there are 4 switches hidden around various traps and puzzles all around the Source Temple, and what you need to do is click all 4 of those switches, which will turn all of the runes in front of the door to the Source Temple green, which will then allow using the lever to open the Source Temple grounds door work. Not the actual Source Temple itself, but the door that blocks the main entrance door, I should say. Like a weird foyer almost. But with that in mind, we can navigate these puzzles. This isn't a guide for those puzzles. Those guides actually exist. Just search them if you're curious. I don't think you're watching this part of the video for me to tell you how to solve these puzzles. We're just going to skip over that part using the magic of YouTube. Once we get to that part, we can, again, just open up the door to this weird outside lobby of sorts where we can find none other than this really big demon. I forget his exact name or how to pronounce it, but this is the demon Balbereth actually wishes you to kill should you have chosen to make a deal with Balbereth. You need to kill this guy one way or the other. He is in your way. He's pretty unavoidable. And honestly, it's pretty easy to kill him. He's not super difficult as far as boss fights go. He uses a lot of fire damage, so keep that in mind. Once he's dead, there is nothing stopping you from entering the Source Temple. So upon entering, there are a couple things we can do. So when we freed Chiara from Balbereth, if we chose to kill Balbereth to do that, Chiara will explain that there is a secret path in the Source Temple that will allow you to skip what is called the Trial of Ascension, which is, a trial, obviously. If you have that information from Chiara and a character with a high enough perception, you can find a false wall that will give you access to a Mirror of Astarte that will allow you to skip pretty much the entire thing. Having a character with high enough perception is kind of a pain, and it's easier to honestly just go through the actual trial, because even if you don't have the perception, there's actually a way to cheese the trial that makes it literally faster than getting a character with high enough perception. So basically, in addition to that alternate path, we can also find a Mirror of Astarte that's already broken that Leandra used to teleport to the end of the trial herself. With that in mind, we can find a button on a rock which will explore a false path that will then lead to the actual trial. We can talk to this big intimidating door on the wall who basically tell us whether or not we are prepared for the trial. I believe this is just a straight up level check. This door is checking what level you are and basically saying whether or not you can pass based on that. However, like most things, this is very cheesable. If you get right up on the door, you can actually throw a teleporter pyramid past it and then teleport your entire party past this door regardless of your level, which is part of the speedrunning process for this game in case you were curious. And then that will give us access to the Trials of Ascension. So what you are actually supposed to do here is navigate this little maze-like puzzle of sorts. And at the end of those puzzles, you'll find keys to other doors of the trial, or at the end of a path, you will find information about how to light the candles and do the ritual in the main room that will allow you to continue forward. So here's the thing. If you already know which candles to light in which order, you can just cheese this and walk right by it. Or if you just look up the patterns, you can just walk right by it. That combined with the teleporter trick on the front door makes this pretty much the fastest way to get through here. For the sake of this video, we're going to skip through the trial because I just explained it to you, and that's basically what I'm doing for most of this anyway. So now that we have passed that, we get teleported to a molten fiery path, and at the end of it, we find none other than Zandalore and a broken portal to the first garden. So this is where Zandalore explains that Leandra was trying to find the Source Temple because it contained a direct portal to the first garden, which is of course a realm of a divine being, specifically the goddess Astarte, and it is also where the God Box, which contained the Void Dragon, had been held. Now, Zandelor basically explains exactly that he chased Leandra here, but he was too late. They came into direct combat, but with her Death Knights, she was able to overpower him. However, she did choose not to kill him, because she easily could have after basically knocking him unconscious in their fight. From here, Chiara will appear and basically say much of the same thing. However, in finding this portal to the first garden, we actually managed to unlock the portal to the first garden at the end of time, or our homestead. At which point, Chiara will teleport us back, and they'll basically say, wrap up your business, because this is the final leg, and once we enter the first garden, there's no real going back. So we can do exactly that. This is your opportunity to wrap up any quests you haven't finished, do anything you haven't done, explore everything. And if you're like me and make a million save files, that won't have been an issue anyway. Either way, this is your last chance to do all of these things before carrying on into the first garden and what is ostensibly the end of the game. I considered ending the episode here and then doing this last part for a separate episode, but then I thought to myself, why not just make this a really big last episode? So that's what we are going to do. Now, when we get teleported to the first garden after a short conversation with all of our companions up to this point, explaining that there's no turning back from here, we will find ourselves teleported to a floating, kind of weird, astrally space-like place. And a giant stone Leandra will basically shout how terrible we are while we try to navigate this place. And at the end of every little island is a portal where a Leandra voice will call us a bunch of names and a failure, and you basically have to agree to get the teleporter to let you use it. And this goes on until you find a big portal at the end. And once you use that, you get teleported to a facsimile of sorts of the King Crab Inn. Now, the King Crab Inn is actually pretty cool. Like, I like this part of the game. It's just kind of neat. Because what they like to do here is, as you probably noticed, they spell everything backwards. So, like, the King Crab Inn is like it's like Pig Latin, I guess, where it's like the same word backwards kind of thing. I guess that's how they do that. In addition to everything being spelled backwards, you will also run into characters from various quests here, but like everything is just ever so slightly wrong. Like you can see Evelyn and the two people she was struggling to debate which one she should heal at the beginning of the game in Sliceal. But now Evelyn is the one who is sick and the two are deciding what to do to save her. So like it's like all the little side quests you were doing, but like a little twist on them, which I thought was really neat. And of course you can see a lot of the characters that you've basically just encountered throughout the game. But what you need to do is head down into the basement where you will find a book. Now once you click on this book, you'll be stunned immediately. Leandra will taunt you some more and you'll be able to get up. Now once you get up, you need to go back to the main floor, head into the room where there is a glowing cupboard that you can see through the map. You open this, Leandra once again knocks you to the floor and taunts you a bit before walking off. Then you need to click the cupboard, which will teleport you to a room upstairs. Now, this is where a lot of weird stuff starts going on. Like there's like a lot of giant crabs, that kind of thing. But basically what you need to do is keep hopping through portals until you get to exit all of the individual inn rooms and basically just kind of enjoy the views. They're hilarious. Now, once you get out of all of the actual like rooms, you will get into the lobby and be able to walk down the hallway. Now, if you walk all the way down the hallway, you're going to hit a locked door. So what you want to do is take the open door to the right on your way down. And through there, you eventually find Immaculates all circled around a dead goddess Astarte. And what you have to do is actually attack Astarte, and she will burn to cinders. All of the people surrounding her will disappear. And on the charcoal pile of ash that is now Astarte, you will find a key. Now this is the key to the door at the end of the hallway. So once you use this key, you can escape into a ruins of sort that doesn't really make any sense. But once you walk up, you will run into first a woman known as General Alessa. So what I haven't mentioned up to this point is in addition to the two Source Hunter generals, there was actually a third general called General Alessa. In the final battle against the Void, the two Source Hunters lost their faith, basically, and General Alessa used her power to save them, but it cost her her life. So it's not a fond memory for the Source Hunters, as you might imagine. And as you talk to her, she's of course taunting you because it turns out that it's not General Alessa, it is actually the Trife, which we met earlier on in the series. He is basically the Void's avatar of sorts, and also the being that originally tricked Astarte into tricking the Guardians to leave the God Box so Astarte could open it, thus releasing the Void. And this is where we get to finally kill the Trife. So his characters are really annoying. Like, by himself, he's fine, but, like, he summons these guys that will cast, I forget the name of the spell, but basically it makes it to where every time you cast any abilities, you'll take damage for it. So it's kind of annoying. But once he is dead, you will need to destroy the crystal horror that he is guarding behind him. And once that orb is destroyed, you will once again get knocked down. This time, you will wake up in a bright and sunny garden. And Zandalor will explain that you guys were trapped in something that is known as horror sleep. That the Trife, when you teleported to the first garden originally, actually trapped you guys in a sleep-like state and basically tried to kill you that way. Now, once everybody wakes up, you can carry on, and you will find none other than Leandra in front of you. Contrary to what the game would have you believe, I actually think this is the hardest fight in the game. You're going to have to fight Leandra. There's no two ways about it. There's no way you can talk your way out of this fight. We'll get to some of the options that you can do after the end of it. But you do have to fight her some form or another. But again, she is, if you do not choose to cheese it, one of the hardest fights in the game. So what she'll do is she always gets the first turn, always. No matter how high your initiative is, she gets the first turn if you initiate combat, period. She will summon 3 demons, first off and foremost. Then she will summon 4 Void Knights. Some things to keep in mind. What the demons are going to do on their turn is cast Void Aura on 2 of themselves and Leandra. Void Aura makes things immune to damage, which is annoying by itself. And then furthermore, Leandra will then summon on her subsequent turns an Arcane Vortex. The Arcane Vortex has a physical immunity aura. So in addition to the blanket aura through Void Aura that the enemies will cast, she can also summon on subsequent turns this Arcane Vortex, which will make enemies in the surrounding area immune to physical damage. Now, on higher difficulties of the game, she will actually then summon on the 3rd round a magical immunity sphere that will make things immune to elemental magic. So, as you can see, through what I honestly think are just cheese mechanics and making themselves immune to basically everything, this is a very annoying fight if you choose to do it legitimately. Now, what you're supposed to do is kill one of the 3 demons that doesn't cast Void Aura on itself, or Leandra, so you'll kill that one first, and then the 2 demons will then cast Void Aura on one of themselves and Leandra, then you can kill another demon, so on and so forth, and eventually, through many turns, the demons will die, they'll stop being able to protect Leandra, and then you can kill her. Which, if that was the only part of the fight, it would be fine, but then again, you also have to deal with these physical and elemental immunity mobs that are the most annoying mobs of all time. So the physical immunity mob will straight up teleport if you hit him, which is beyond frustrating. And then the elemental mob, by the time he gets up, he's basically immune to everything, so you have to kill everything else first. It's a nightmare. However, there are many ways to cheese this fight. If you have high enough telekinesis, you can actually kill Leandra in one shot with the weight mechanic chest trick before she even spots you to initiate dialogue. So like you can literally one-shot her with this. The problem I don't like about this specifically, if you do it like exactly like this by just throwing it with a really high telekinesis, is if you don't kill her in one shot, she initiates dialogue, and then you can then kill her, sure, but at that point your 2 main characters will be stuck in a permanent dialogue loop, and there's no way to fix it. So if you're gonna cheese it, what I recommend doing is using either A, enough weight in the chest to kill her immediately without initiating any sort of dialogue. If you don't have a weighty enough chest to do that, what you're going to need to do is throw down a smoke screen, like a fog, a smoke grenade, something like that. So it blocks her field of vision, and then you can usually hit her twice like that, and then that will help a lot, and it'll keep your characters from getting bugged out. But after you defeat her, if Akara is with you, you can use the Soulforge repair scroll that you got from killing Cassandra to fix the Soulforge between Akara and Leandra, which will then turn them into like a super mage of sorts, because it turns them into one person. Thing is, I don't really recommend doing this. I think you should just kill Leandra, because if you do this, if you turn them into that one mage, they will actually wind up turning on you in the final battle, which is a little spoilery, sure, but just to let you know, I think Leandra should die. She's an awful person. From here, Leandra drops a wand that instantly kills Death Knights, and it also expunges the void from things. Now, you need to pick up this wand equip it and use it on the big portal behind Leandra to purge the void from it, thus activating the portal. So once that is done, you can, of course, then go through the portal, and this is the absolute final map of the game, just so you're aware. So you will travel forward a little bit until you run into about 6 Death Knights. Now, if you're clever with the wand and play just at the edge of the range, you can usually kill all 6 of them without even actually initiating combat. Because if you initiate combat with these Death Knights, they keep coming in waves and waves, and it's an awful fight. So I actually recommend you kind of just get at the very edge of the range of the wand and just kill them all outright. It'll save you a lot of hassle. The experience isn't going to matter this late in the game, so just do it. And with that, we can walk to the bottom of this map down this big hill. And this is where it's awesome. So, once we walk up, Astarte will summon herself, I guess. I don't know. She shows up to the fight here. She summons herself in front of the God Box. The God Box, as you can see, is still intact, so that's useful. And Astarte will basically say that this is it. The Void Dragon has come. Prepare yourselves. And then, sure enough, the Void Dragon comes. This is a really cool fight. It's pretty difficult, honestly, if you do it the right way. The main thing is that you need to focus on the Void Dragon. All the things he's about to summon don't matter. They don't make him immune to anything. There's no, big mechanics. Focus the Void Dragon. If he dies, you win, period. And then, of course, you can also cheese him on any difficulty with the weight chest trick. You can hit him with it a couple times. Once you find that sweet spot, he'll die. He'll die like a bag of rocks. So pretty tough fight if you do it normally, though, just because there's a lot of summons and everything gets a lot of turns. But if you did all the things in the game, you should have Zandalore and Chiara with you and Astarte at the very least, plus your 4-party team. So you should be decently okay. But it's a tough fight. It's the last fight of the game. So once the Void Dragon is dead, Astarte traps him in the God Box and purifies the source, which she explains to you, and we get this awesome cinematics proving it. Now, once this cinematic is over, we can basically request that Astarte send us back to where it all started, because Astarte releases the Source Hunters from their duty guarding the God Box, and she makes it her duty to guard the God Box, basically releasing these mortals from a lifetime of servitude to a cause they didn't ask for. And upon doing this, she will teleport you back to the Source Academy West, which is where you started, technically. And you can move through here once you get to the door of the actual proper building. None other than Captain Waitrius will talk to you, the guy who actually sent you on the mission to investigate the murder of Counselor Jake himself. You can meet him and talk to him right here. If you tell him the truth about what happened, he obviously doesn't believe you and sends you on your way. But basically you can explain that what happened to Counselor Jake, and you can technically wrap up that murder investigation finally and move on about your business. However, he does explain that you have some visitors, and inside you can talk to Arhu, Akara, people like that, just anybody you happen to kind of meet. They can all kind of meet in this room. You can put a nice little wrap up on your companions, and then once you're done with that, you and your Source Hunter companion can walk forward to the door at the end of the walkway out the back of the building. And once you click on this door, that's the end. It actually pans out. It shows zigzags telling this story to many imps, some of which are like, what? It's a fun little framing thing. And then the credits roll. So that, guys, is the full story of Divinity Original Sin. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed the series. I had a blast making it. It was a lot of fun for me personally. Following this up, there will be a discussion video about the goddess Astarte and the Void in Original Sin compared to Original 2. I kind of want to talk some about that, kind of explain some of the lore and my takes on some of it, because let's be real, there's some plot holes here. I'm definitely going to make a video about the background of Jahan, because he is just hands down my favorite character that is non-player. He is my favorite NPC in the Original Sin games. He's so cool. But that aside, thank you guys so much for watching. Really, from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. Have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you guys soon.